All right, now down to the business end, the bow. This is the thing that actually gets everything working and makes the sound. The bow, even though it looks like it's just a stick of wood, which it is, sometimes it's plastic, or carbon fiber or something, or fiberglass. It's important. It's hard to believe that it actually affects the sound. One bow will sound different than another one. So what to watch for? One is the stick. Is there any cracks? Is there cracks up here? You don't want anything. If it's cracks, leave it alone. Not that you can't buy the instrument if it's got a cracked bow. You can always buy a bow, a brand new bow for about 80 bucks. Sometimes you get a carbon fiber one or a fiberglass one. They're indestructible pretty much. The kids can drop them. They're not going to break. Wood bows are, pretty cheap just for the bottom line, 50 bucks or 60 bucks. You might be able to find one for. The main part of the mechanics of it is the frog end. It's called a frog, I found out, because not only because you can make frog sounds down if you play down an end, but because this part, which is now usually ebony or some kind of hard wood, used to be made out of the inner part of a horse's hoof, which is called the frog, I found out. Horse people would know that, I guess. I didn't. I'm not a horse person. I ride motorcycles. But anyway, that's another thing. So the frog, this is how it works. So you can examine these things if you're going to buy a used instrument or something. This bit here tightens the hair. It's just a screw. You can see that? Screw with threads, and a screw. The screw goes in the end of this. So inside, I'm going to take the frog right off. Ta-da! The hair is going to flop for a second. Try to. If you show any kid this, tell them not to go fishing. They want to damage the bow. So let's see if you can see this. Inside the bow is hollow in this end. If the screw goes in, you actually see it in there. See it in the hollow part? So the screw turns, the threads are in there, and there's a matching nut attached to the inside of the, you see that? That there, on the inside of the frog. What that does is you screw it, that nut will slide back or forth in that slot. Make sense? So the screw goes, the nut goes in there. The screw goes into the nut, and it simply pulls the frog backwards, which tightens the hair. So that's how it works. Make sure all the parts are there. Make sure the metal ferrule is there. Sometimes they'll slip forward. That's how bow repairman will actually change the hair. They'll slide this metal thing forward. If it's down the hair somewhere, and it doesn't mean the bow is done, make sure there's no cracks in here. This is a place where, especially if they've been dropped or something, will crack sometimes, or just stress fractures. If it has this silver winding or has leather, it doesn't matter too much. Just it feels good in your hand. Sometimes I put the rubber from a pen on there, which I'm a renegade. That's from a grip on a pen. I kind of like it. Professional bullmakers roll their eyes at me, but that's okay. Do whatever's comfortable. So now the hair is the main deal too. This is actually hair from a horse's tail. Usually it's Mongolian hair. Usually, which is, I guess, a Chinese breed of horse up there, and it grows nice and straight and thick hair. It doesn't hurt the horse any. They cut it off the horse and clean the poop off it with some bleach water or something, probably. Clean it up. And it comes in shanks where a trained professional can change the hair if you want. So with time, the hair, if it's an old bow, may dry up and become brittle. And there may be some hairs, if you buy used violins, the hairs will be flopped over and a bunch of them broken. It's not a big deal. You just trim those old pieces off. If there's enough hair, you can still play it. If there's not enough hair, you can have it re-haired. So they put a new shank of hair in there. There's a plug that holds it in here. That's got to be there, or they have to make you a new one, a special, really perfectly fitted plug that holds, it's just tied in a knot up inside here. And then on this end, they have to comb it down so there's no twist in it. I tried to do it, learn to do it. It's really a pain in the butt. I just pay somebody else to do it now. And to have a bow re-haired is anywhere from 30 to 60 bucks or so at a reputable shop. And 60 bucks would be the high end, 65 maybe from a really fine bow maker, someone who specializes just in bows. Some people, this stuff is very particular. There's some people who specialize just in making frogs, I found out. I was like, holy cow, really? Just that one part? That's their whole career? Okay. So anyways, so the inside here, so when the ferrule, the metal part slides forward, there's another plug in there, and this is either pearl or a plastic piece that'll actually slide forward like a drawer, and it holds There's another plug inside. The frog is hollow as well, and the knot of hair gets held in there. So it's pretty simple stuff. As far as the stick goes, I see there's a couple hairs hanging here in this bow, isn't there? Oh, it's not very tight. I'm going to just tighten it a little bit. So how far to tighten it, how wobbly the stick is, you should hold it in your hands, let's see, and bend it around a little bit. If it's really loose and wobbly, it's probably not a very good bow. You might be better off with a fiberglass one or something. If it's fairly stiff and it has some bounce to it, and when you have it loose, if you put it on a wall, I don't have a wall handy here, but if the hair, if the stick is actually touching the hair when you put it on a wall, then it's steam bent properly. If it's not quite there, you can have that, I don't know what they call it, cambering it or something. I don't know the technical term. You can have that, from a really good bow person, you can have the wood actually re-bent to have a curve. If you tighten it up and the bow is going the opposite way, like a bow and arrow, it's the wrong kind of bow. The bow should always have a backwards recurve, and they should have maybe a pencil width of hair in there when you tighten it, and there's no hairs like this bow has still some flopping. This is a cheap $20 bow probably. I just pulled out for demonstration uses. So I've had fancy bows. I had a fancy French bow. It was worth many thousands. I played it for a bunch of years and ended up, it affected the sound of the violin I was playing in a way that I didn't like it. It had a zingy tone, which may be good for a concert violin, but when I used it on my electric violin, it added a zingy tone and the amp was kind of shrill. So I ended up selling that bow and for a good deal of money at one point, and have gone with cheaper bows, and they work just fine for me. So there you have it. There's a bunch about bows, probably more than you ever wanted to know. And oh, by the way, the hair needs to be rosined. Rosin goes on the hair. If there's no rosin, it slips just like as if you're running a stick on it. If I put the bow upside down, that's about all the sound it makes without rosin. So rosin comes in all shapes and sizes. But basically, it's boiled tree sap with proprietary blends of whatever company's wax. So they mix wax and pine tree sap. I've heard of olive tree sap. There might be other trees that they use sometimes. But it's this sticky stuff you put on the hair so it sticks to the string and makes a sound. So that's not super expensive. I wouldn't fuss about that. When you get out the cake, when you get a new one, you scratch it up with some sandpaper and get this thing really sticky at first. Then you just use a little bit each time after that. So there's a whole bunch about bows. I hope that helps you with some general education.